Imagine waking up tomorrow morning to headlines like this: millions of vehicles recalled over safety features, contaminated food products pulled from shelves nationwide, medical devices failing inside hospitals, consumer electronics catching fire in homes and aircraft. Now imagine these aren't isolated incidents. They are all connected to the same growing operational threat: product recalls and quality failures. Every week, we talk about risk organizations, cyber attacks, severe weather, workplace violence, infrastructure failures. But today, we're discussing a quieter crisis, one that costs companies billions, destroys trust overnight, and in some cases, puts lives directly at risk. Stay tuned at the end of this video to hear Mike share why he wrote his Amazon #1 best-selling book, Operational Excellence, and how you too can apply the lessons from his 30 years leading global programs. Hello, everyone. My name is Jerome Ryan. I'm joined by Mike Janko, and this is Impact Analysis.
Thanks, Jerome, and hello, everyone. Today, we're discussing a risk many organizations underestimate until it becomes front-page news. Product recalls and quality failures are increasing across nearly every major industry. And it isn't just a manufacturing problem, it's a leadership issue, a governance issue, so it's become an operational resilience issue. One defective product, one contaminated ingredient, or one overlooked supplier failure can quickly escalate into operational disruption, reputational damage, regulatory scrutiny, lawsuits, and long-term loss of customer trust. Remember to consider our key takeaways a bit later in our discussion, since by applying them, you can gain competitive advantages. Jerome, how big a problem is product recall?
Yeah, Mike, let's start with the scale of the problem. The United States saw more than 1 billion recalled product units in 2023 alone, the highest number ever recorded. The average major recall now costs companies approximately $12 million. And in industries like automotive and pharmaceuticals, losses can exceed $1 billion. Even more concerning, studies show that nearly 70% of consumers permanently lose trust in a brand after a serious recall event, and many recalled products are never recovered. In some industries, only 10 to 30% of recalled products are actually returned, meaning dangerous products often remain in homes, workplaces, hospitals, and supply chains.
And Jerome, here's another thing leaders need to understand. These events are no longer rare exceptions. They're becoming commonplace. Why? Because organizations today are operating under enormous pressure. They have faster production cycles. We have globalized supply chains. There's very aggressive innovation timelines with labor shortages and ever-present cost reduction. So what appears to be a single product failure is often the result of multiple breakdowns occurring simultaneously, including suppliers, oversight, and leadership decision-making. Let's review significant major industry recall trends. Let's start with the automotive industry, where recalls rose 18% over last year. In 2025 alone, automakers had over 1,000 safety recalls affecting more than 30 million vehicles in the US. The Takata airbag crisis remains one of the largest recalls in history. There are over 67 million airbags recalled that were affecting more than 40 million vehicle brands worldwide, linked to injuries and fatalities across multiple countries. At the same time, electric vehicle battery recalls are rising due to thermal, runaway, and fire risk. Manufacturers have collectively spent billions responding to EV battery failures in the past few years.
And the lesson here is important. Innovation without rigorous testing creates systemic operational risk. Organizations rushing products to market may gain short-term competitive advantage, but if quality validation fails, the long-term reputational and financial consequences can be devastating. Let's take a look at the food and beverage sector now. The FDA reports a significant rise in recalls involving things like listeria, salmonella, undeclared allergens, and foreign object contamination. Listeria alone causes approximately 1,600 hospitalizations annually in the United States. And contamination involving metal, plastic, and glass triggered over 100 major recalls in a single year.
And Jerome, those food-related recalls rose 16% over last year, spread quickly because public trust disappears almost immediately. One sanitation breakdown, one contaminated ingredient, one supplier failure can trigger national media attention, regulatory investigations, supply chain shutdowns, and permanent brand damage. That's why supplier oversight and quality assurance are now critical resilience functions, not just compliance activities. Now, in pharmaceutical and healthcare sectors, quality failures can become life-threatening events. The FDA issues from 300 to over 1,000 drug recalls every year involving contamination, sterile concerns, and manufacturing defects. One contaminated eye drop incident caused deaths, permanent vision loss, and nationwide recalls. Medical device recalls also increased 26% from last year.
And most major failures in regulated industries rarely come from one technical error alone. They usually stem from several things, like ignored warning signs, weak escalation processes, production pressure, and leadership failing to challenge operational assumptions. That's why resilience requires more than technical controls. It requires strong organizational culture and executive oversight. Now let's talk a little bit about the cascading effects, starting with consumer electronics. So consumer electronic recalls are also rising sharply. Lithium-ion battery fires increased significantly between 2020 and 2023. These affect things like smartphones, laptops, e-bikes, portable power systems, things that we're all using every day. Several major recalls involved overheating devices and combustion risks. One global smartphone recall reportedly cost over $5 billion in direct and indirect losses.
And the operational lesson is clear. Shorter product development timelines can undermine safety testings. Organizations are focusing entirely on speed and innovation. They can create larger operational vulnerabilities later. When products fail publicly, the damage extends far past the product itself. It impacts your reputation, insurance costs, investor confidence, customer loyalty, and regulatory relationships. Let's take a look at children's products. So children's product recalls rose 28% over last year and remain one of the most sensitive categories. Millions of toys and infant products were recalled last year due to choking hazards, toxic materials, structural failures, and lead contamination.
And few events destroy trust faster than products harming children. These recalls often expose deeper issues involving low visibility suppliers, weak quality audits, and poor design stage risk assessments. When organizations prioritize cost savings over transparency and oversight, vulnerable populations often absorb the consequences. Now let's segue into industrial and infrastructure failings. Some of the most dangerous recalls never make national headlines. Industrial failures involve valves, pipelines, pressure systems, construction materials, and heavy equipment. Those continue to cause billions in losses globally. These failures can lead to, among other things, explosions, environmental releases, structural collapses, and large-scale operational shutdowns.
And when we're talking critical infrastructure, one defective component can disrupt operations, transportation, safety, energy, reliability, legal exposure, and public confidence simultaneously. That's why resilient leaders have to evaluate operational dependencies, not just the individual product. Let's take a look at some of the key takeaways, Jerome, what leaders should be doing now. Here's the reality. Product recalls are no longer isolated quality control events. They are all enterprise-wide resilience events. Organizations that wait until a recall occurs are already behind. Resilient organizations have to prepare in advance.
So what should leaders focus on right now? Well, first, strengthen oversight of your suppliers and continue auditing them. Organizations must improve visibility across global supply chains and identify hidden vulnerabilities before failures occur. Second, invest in stronger testing and scenario planning. Ask questions like, what happens if a critical product fails publicly? How quickly can we isolate affected inventory? And can we communicate effectively within hours, not days?
A third takeaway is to build recall-ready crisis response plans. That includes executive escalation procedures, coordination with legal, operational containment, communications with customers, and media response strategies. And fourth, improve organizational culture. Employees have to feel empowered to escalate concerns early without fear of retribution or delay. Organizations that detect problems early recover significantly faster.
And finally, rehearse disruption scenarios. This is something we talk about a lot on this channel. Run exercises involving nationwide recalls, supplier contamination, defective product exposures, or major regulatory investigations. Organizations that practice disruption consistently, building muscle memory internally, respond faster, protect trust more effectively, and reduce long-term operational damage.
So in summary, product recalls are becoming more frequent, more expensive, and more operationally disruptive. Organizations cannot eliminate every risk, but they can control how they respond. Please share our story with friends and colleagues, subscribe, and like our Impact Analysis channel. It's always great joining you, Jerome, and sharing our message to benefit our audience. Until next time, thanks for joining us on Impact Analysis, where we strongly believe you can manage risk now or its consequences later. Hi, I'm Mike Janko, author of Excellence in Operational Resilience and co-host of the new YouTube channel, Impact Analysis. I wrote this book so you can learn of my journey of both personal and operational resilience. During my career as Goodyear's Director of Global Business Continuity and various leadership roles at both Nestle and Stouffer Hotels, we successfully managed through nearly 4,000 significant events and crises throughout the US, Latin America, Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Asia Pacific. A key takeaway during all those events was our teams performed the best when they were led by resilient leaders. My personal resilience is based on being an athlete, martial artist, and setting 2 world sit-up records. And a resilient leader does not allow themselves or their teams to fail. Operational resilience is not just about responding to crises. It's about leading teams to adapt, adjust, learn, and succeed through all types of events. If your organization wants to improve, I suggest you get my book, Excellence in Operational Resilience. After all, the only thing harder than being resilient is explaining why you aren't.